The age-old trick of pulling a rabbit out of a hat is an example of conjuration magic. Some other examples are things like calling oh my god, that was loud. Calling lightning down from the sky, or even summoning a giant tidal wave. Not my best idea. First up on our list has got to be arguably the most popular spell in all of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and that is Find Familiar. This spell gives you a friendly little familiar friend that follows you around and acts independently of you, although he does follow your commands. The familiar can take a form of an animal that you choose, meaning it could be a little spiritual cat, hawk, or even an octopus depending upon what you like. This spell is the ultimate reconnaissance spell, as it allows you to see through your familiar's eyes and hear what it hears. But the really cool thing about Find Familiar is that you can use it to deliver spells with a range of touch as long as you are within 100 feet of your familiar. So you could technically have your familiar climb, or fly, I guess, into a target's house, cast snare in the radius around their front bedroom door, and then wait for them to fall into your trap. Or, a more direct approach, you could just have them run on up and then cast Inflict Wounds for massive surprise damage. Or if you want to go crazy, you could send your familiar to fly right on up to your target and cast Flock of Familiars, instantly summoning 2 other familiars and instantly surrounding your enemy. The possibilities for this spell are amazing, and that's not even considering the combat potential. While the familiar can't attack, it does act on its own initiative, meaning that it can do things in combat. If you wanted to, maybe drop something heavy on the enemy's head, or have your familiar use the help action to get yourself advantage on the next attack against the creature, the choices are really endless. Find Familiar is one of those rare spells that is a staple amongst all spellcasters in 5th edition, so you have the opportunity to take it, you honestly 100% of the time should. Next on our list is one of my favorite spells, and that would be Dimension Door. You teleport yourself up to a spot within 500 feet of your current position. This spell is a unique teleportation spell, which sounds kind of funny, right? How can a teleportation spell be unique? Unlike spells like Misty Step or Far Step, this does not require being able to see where you'd like to teleport to. This makes sense when you realize just how far 500 feet actually is, because there's a lot of space in between you and that 500 feet for things like buildings, rocks, or people to get in your way of actually seeing where you want to go. But because it doesn't require sight, it makes for some really fun interactions. You could teleport 500 feet up, down, left and right. Wherever you choose, you would pop up wherever you decide. And what's more is that it does allow you to bring one other willing creature with you. This makes it the ultimate get the fuck out of there spell, since it's such a far distance to teleport and since you can bring another creature with you. If you need to get somewhere fast or get away from somewhere fast, there's really no better spell than Dimension Door. While it is a 4th level spell and requiring an entire action to cast, having the ability to create that much distance instantaneously is invaluable and should always be considered whenever you have the chance to pick it up. Moving on to the 3rd spell for today's list, we have the classic cleric spell, Spirit Guardians. You call forth spirits to protect you and your allies that fly around you within a 15-foot radius. The 15-foot radius acts as a protective zone and hinders enemies that come within that radius. Any enemy that enters or starts their turn there takes 3d8 damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one, but the lesser known effect of this spell is that it halves enemies' movement speed within. So a creature with 30 base movement speed now has a 15 base movement speed. And within a 15-foot radius, that makes this spell much more valuable than you might initially think. Consider this. A creature with 30 movement speed would have to start their turn literally next to the radius of the Spirit Guardians in order to actually get to the caster, because as soon as they enter the radius, their speed is slowed in half. If the creature used any movement speed prior to entering that radius, there is no way to get within melee of the caster unless they take the dash action, at which case they're not going to be attacking that round anyways. Even a creature with 40 base movement speed would have to be within 20 feet of the caster in order to get an attack in that one round. This movement speed reduction, while it isn't that exciting, makes Spirit Guardians the ultimate kiting spell, allowing for the caster to control the battlefield simply by walking around. While it does do some pretty good damage, the movement speed reduction pretty much makes this spell a must-have. So if you have the chance to pick up Spirit Guardians, you need to pick it up. Alright, the next spell on today's list is going to be Conjure Minor Elementals. And I know where this is going to go, so I'm just going to set this right now. I only included one spell that had summoning effect. There are a bunch of others like Conjure Woodland Beings, Summon Elemental, Conjure Minor Elemental, all these other ones that are incredibly powerful, and I only wanted to include one in this video because if I didn't, this video would probably be all about summoning creatures. But that's not what it's about. It's about Conjuration Spells. Also, these spells tend to have a little bit of debate about how they work. While the player clearly gets to choose how many elementals it wants to summon, it doesn't specifically say it gets to choose what elementals it wants to summon. Assuming that the player is allowed to choose what elemental it can summon, this spell is amazing. But I really like minor elementals because of what you can summon. And that would be methods, specifically magma methods. Conjure Minor Elementals allows you to summon 4 of these little bastards. You see, magma methods have 3 specific traits that make them stupidly powerful to summon. First, they have Fire Breath. While it does require a save, it still deals 2d6 naturally either way. On average, that's 7 damage, but assuming they succeeded their save, that's 3 damage times 4 methods, equaling 12 total damage. Might not seem like a lot, but there's more. Secondly, they innately have the spell Heat Metal, which, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful damaging spells in all of 5th edition. For more info on Heat Metal specifically, you can go check out my must-have 2nd level spells, which I linked in the description below somewhere. But on average, Heat Metal can deal 9 damage regardless of a save, which is times 4 methods, equaling 36 damage. Okay, the damage is starting to get better, but the last and most important thing is that they have something called a Death Burst. You see, when a method dies, they explode into a burst of energy, and a magma method explodes into a burst of lava and fire. This feature requires the same throw as a Fire Breath and deals the same damage. So theoretically, you could summon 4 magma methods, have them all run on up to the enemy, all Fire Breath them, and then wait. If the enemy decides to run, that is 4 automatic guaranteed attacks of opportunity against them, and if they decide to attack the methods, then they will likely explode into a burst of fire and lava. Literally a win-win for you regardless of what they choose. Considering there's 4 methods, that equals 4 saves for the Fire Breath and 4 saves for the Death Burst, totaling 8 total saves that a creature will have to make. In the incredibly unlikely scenario that the enemy succeeds on all 8 of those saving throws, at worst, this spell will deal 24 damage. But also considering that both Death Burst and Fire Breath are area of effect abilities, it could affect multiple targets. On the other hand, in the best possible scenario, the enemy fails all their saves, it can deal upwards of 48 damage. And all of those damage calculations are not even considering the Heat Metal potential here. If you throw that into the effect, Heat Metal is a bonus action, which adds more damages flat up on top, which makes this spell stupidly strong. And realistically, this spell can go into the hundreds of damage depending upon how long the methods survive, because honestly, they're probably not going to kill all the methods in one turn. When taking into consideration the possibilities of opportunity attacks, Heat Metal, and the fact that there are 4 new targets on the battlefield to soak damage, Conjure Minor Elementals is easily worth a spot as one of the must-have conjuration spells in your spellbook. And finally, the last spell on our list for today is actually going to be 2 spells, because so what, it's my video, I make the rules, and that would be Flaming Sphere and Call Lightning. Oddly enough, these are likely the most controversial picks on my entire list, but I wanted to finish off with some damage, and quite honestly, I really heavily debated between both Flaming Sphere and Call Lightning and couldn't decide. I chose both simply to provide some accessibility to classes, and because they're both very effective at what they do. But let's start with the Flaming Sphere. This spell creates a flaming sphere, shocking I know, that you can throw or ram into enemies to deal damage. The sphere deals 2d6 damage or half as much on a successful dex save, but the great thing about this spell is its concentration. This means that you can keep the spell up and continually ram it into enemies to keep dealing damage. For those who don't know already, I love spells that allow you to weaponize your bonus action, and Flaming Sphere does just that and allows you to continually use your normal action to firebolt or something else to deal the most damage, all while using your bonus action to keep smacking that guy with a fiery ball. That's such a weird way of saying it. Call Lightning, on the other hand, is similar, but a little bit different. While it does deal more damage than Flaming Sphere, it does require your entire action to cast, which is definitely not ideal. However, if we're talking bang for your buck, this spell is fantastic for conserving spell slots in battle. Since it lasts 10 whole minutes and only requires you to cast the spell once while you're concentrating on that, you can continually use this potentially every action for 10 minutes with only ever having to use one spell slot. If you upcast this spell, the damage increases for every spell level above 3rd, making this a must-have for any self-respecting druid. Not to mention, you could theoretically hold on to your concentration while you're in wild shape, so double bang for your buck. Bang bang buck, if you will. So make sure to take a look at both Flaming Sphere and Call Lightning because they are both must-haves in any spellcaster's list. And that does it for 5 must-have Conjuration spells in D&D 5e. As always, I wanted to end this video with a huge thank you to our patrons. Y'all are pretty cool, and I appreciate you. If you want to support our channel, you can go check out our Patreon linked in the description box below. Patrons get access to all of my homebrew, items, NPC, and special roles in our Discord. Also, if you have any must-have spells, leave a comment below and let me know. I read every comment, almost always reply, and who knows, I might even feature your comment in the next video. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday.